Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your favorite horror storytelling channel. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video.
Emergency alerts. The first alert came through at 1:09 a.m. Not the sound, that familiar shriek that jolts you awake, but the wording. Emergency alert. This message is for everyone except you. I sat up in bed, heart hammering, phone vibrating in my hand, like it was alive. The room was dark, silent except for my own breathing. Outside, the city slept. No sirens, no wind, no distant traffic. I reread the alert 3 times. Except you. That didn't make sense. Emergency alerts weren't personalized. They didn't exclude. They didn't talk to you like that. A second line appeared beneath it, typing itself out one character at a time. If you are reading this, please remain calm. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. Yeah, sure. I waited for the follow-up Amber Alert details, weather warnings, anything normal. Nothing came. After a minute, the screen went dark. By morning, social media was buzzing. Some people claimed they'd gotten a garbled alert. Others said their phones made the noise but displayed nothing. A few joked about government mind control, hacked satellites, mass hallucinations. No one mentioned the wording I'd seen. I asked my coworker Jenna if she got anything. Just the noise, she said, sipping her coffee. Scared the hell out of my cat. Why? Nothing. I lied. Probably a glitch. But my phone stayed warm in my pocket all day, like something was running nonstop in the background. The second alert arrived at 11:43 p.m. I was brushing my teeth when the sound blasted through the apartment, echoing off tile and mirror. Emergency alert, do not check on your neighbors. I stared at my reflection. What? I whispered. Below the text was a map. My building. Every apartment highlighted in dull gray, except mine. Mine pulsed slowly in red. The alert expanded again. You are currently unaccounted for. Please stay where you are. A thud echoed from the hallway outside my door. Someone screamed. It cut off abruptly, like a microphone being muted. I backed away from the bathroom door, heart slamming against my ribs. My phone buzzed again. This is for your safety. Another thud, closer this time. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. After several minutes, the sound stopped. The alert disappeared. The next morning, police cars lined the street. 3 apartments on my floor were taped off. One door hung open. Frames splintered inward. The hallway smelled faintly metallic, like pennies and ozone. A police officer stopped me as I tried to leave. Did you hear anything last night? He asked. I hesitated. I heard noise. He studied my face too long. Did you check on anyone? No, his shoulders relaxed slightly. Good. What happened? I asked. He shook his head, still investigating. As I walked away, my phone vibrated. No alert sound this time. Just text. Compliance noted. The alerts started coming every night after that. Each one different. Each one worse. Do not turn on the lights after midnight. If you hear your name, IT is not safe to answer. Ignore knocking that does not match your heart rate. Some alerts included audio clips, static-laced recordings that sounded like emergency broadcasts spoken by too many overlapping voices. Others included images, blurry photos of my apartment, taken from inside. I stopped sleeping. I stopped answering messages. I unplugged my TV after it turned itself on at 3:02 a.m. and displayed a scrolling banner. This is only a test. This is only a test. This is only a test. Each repetition was slightly more distorted than the last. At work, people whisper about disappearances. Entire families gone overnight. Apartments sealed by authorities who refuse to explain anything. The news used phrases like localized event and technical malfunction. The alert said otherwise. One night, the alert didn't come from my phone. It came from the walls. A low, resonant hum, followed by a voice that sounded almost human. Emergency alert system. My phone lit up anyway. You are still awake. Thank you for continuing to participate. What is this? I shouted into the empty room. What do you want? The lights flickered. The voice returned, clearer now. Containment requires contrast. My phone displayed a live feed, not from my camera, from the street outside. Figures moved between parked cars, too tall, too thin, limbs bending at wrong angles. Their heads jerked unnaturally, as if listening for something specific, for someone specific. They cannot see you if you do not respond. A knock sounded at my door. 3 slow taps. My phone buzzed violently. Do not answer. This is not a drill. The knocking continued. Then a voice. My voice. Miles, it said softly. Open the door. I slid down the wall, covering my ears. The voice sighed. Non-compliant behavior increases risk. The knocking stopped. Something scratched at the doorframe. Then silence. The final alert came 2 weeks later. By then, half the building was empty. Entire blocks were dark at night. Emergency vehicles passed constantly, lights flashing, sirens silent. My phone vibrated at exactly 12 a.m. emergency alert status update. Resolution imminent. Below it was a countdown timer. My hands trembled. What happens at 0? I whispered. The phone answered. You will no longer be excluded. The walls began to hum. The floor pulsed beneath my feet like a heartbeat. Outside, I heard movement, hundreds of footsteps, perfectly synchronized. The timer ticked down. My phone grew hot enough to burn. Final instruction. Please look at your screen. I don't want to, I said, tears streaming down my face. Please. Against every instinct, I looked. The screen showed a massive map. Not just my city, every city. Every lighted area marked in gray. Scattered among them were tiny red dots. Few, rare, the last unaccounted. The alert text changed. Thank you for helping us identify the difference. The phone went dark. The hum stopped. The footsteps outside faded. Morning came quietly. No more alerts. No more sirens. The city slowly returned to life. News declared the crisis over. A false alarm cascade. An unprecedented but resolved system failure. People stopped talking about it. I didn't, because sometimes late at night, my phone grows warm again, and a tiny green icon appears at the top of the screen. Listening, waiting for the next emergency. Nobody rings a church bell anymore. Nobody rings a church bell anymore. That's what people tell you when you move to Graymore. They say it casually, the way you'd mention a closed diner or a road that floods in spring. Bell hasn't rung in years. The woman at the post office told me, sliding my mail across the counter. Motors busted. I nodded, even though I hadn't asked. The church sat on a low hill at the edge of town, stone darkened by age and weather. St. Bartholomew's. No congregation anymore, not really. Services stopped before I arrived. The door stayed locked. The bell tower loomed above everything. Its cross crooked, like it was tired of pointing upward. At night, you could see the bell through the louvers if the moon was right. It never moved. The first night I heard it, I thought I was dreaming. I'd been half asleep, that hazy hour before morning, when your thoughts don't fully belong to you. Somewhere far off, deep and slow, came a gong, heavy enough to vibrate my chest. One bell tolled, then silence. I sat up in bed, heart racing, listening for another. Nothing. In the morning, I asked my neighbor, Tom, about it while we stood at our mailboxes. Did you hear the bell last night? I asked. He froze, hand still inside the mailbox. No, he said carefully. You must have dreamed it. But you said nobody rings it, he interrupted too quickly, and it doesn't ring on its own. He shut his mailbox with a little more force than necessary and went inside without another word. Over the next week, I heard it 3 more times. Always once. Always late at night. Never the same hour. Each time it felt closer. Not louder, nearer. Like the sound was moving toward me through the dark. I started sleeping poorly. When you expect a sound, the silence becomes unbearable. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the toll that might or might not come. On the fourth night, it rang again, but this time it rang twice. The second toll came faster than the first, impatient, almost irritated. I got out of bed and went to the window. The hill was visible from my street. The church stood black against the stars. The bell was swinging, slowly, deliberately. No lights were on inside. No figures moved in the tower. The bell swung anyway. The next morning, there was a notice on my door, plain white paper. No envelope. Please do not approach the church at night. No signature. No explanation. I laughed out loud, sharp and nervous, and crumpled it up. That afternoon, I went to the library. The librarian, an old man with yellow glasses, watched me too closely as I searched the local history section. I found a thin book about Greymoor's founding, brittle pages smelling of dust and mildew. The bell was mentioned exactly once. Installed in 1891, rung for services, weddings, emergencies, and deaths. Deaths. I flipped ahead. There was a long gap in the record starting in the early 1970s. Pages missing, torn cleanly from a binding. What happened here? I asked. The librarian's voice came from behind me. That's about when people stop ringing it. Why? He hesitated. Because it rings back. I didn't sleep that night. At 1:13 a.m., the bell rang. Once. Then again. Then again. Each toll came faster, stacking on top of the last until the sound blurred into something continuous, a deep vibration that made the windows tremble. I clapped my hands over my ears. It didn't help. The sound wasn't traveling through the air. It was coming from inside my chest. And beneath it, almost too low to hear, was something else. Voices. I couldn't make out words at first. Just a layered murmur, dozens of mouths speaking at once. With every toll, they grew clearer. Names. Spoken softly, reverently. My name was among them. I screamed. The bell stopped. So did the voices. The silence afterward was worse than the noise. The next day, the town felt thinner. Shadows lingered too long. People avoided eye contact. Several houses had black ribbons tied to their doors, fresh and stark against old paint. At the grocery store, I overheard two women whispering. It rang 3 times last night. That many? Yes. God help us. I grabbed one of them by the arm. What does it mean when it rings? Her face drained of color. Let go, she hissed. Don't say its name out loud. I didn't, she pulled free and backed away. Nobody rings the church bell anymore, she said. But when it rings, someone answers. That night, I went to church. I don't know why. Curiosity, fear, that awful human need to see the thing that's haunting you. The hill was steeper than it looked. The grass was dead in patches, worn away by footsteps that hadn't been taken in years. The front door was unlocked. It creaked open at my touch. Inside, the air was cold and damp, thick with the smell of old stone and extinguished candles. The pews were coated in dust. Cobwebs hung like veils from the ceiling. The bell rope dangled in the center aisle. It was frayed and wet. I stepped back. Above me in the tower, something shifted. A low scrape. Metal on stone. The bell tolled. Once. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. My knees buckled. I looked up. The bell wasn't swinging. It was being pulled from below. The rope tightened, drawing upward into the darkness of the tower, like it was being reeled in. And then I heard breathing. Heavy, labored, coming from the walls, from the floor, from the empty pews. Figures began to emerge, translucent at first, then solidifying. Men, women, children, their faces slack, eyes hollow, mouths moving silently. Each of them bore a mark. A crushed skull, a broken neck, a chest caved inward. I understood then. The bell wasn't rung for deaths. It was rung by them. The rope snapped taut. The bell rang again. The figures turned toward me. and spoke in perfect unison, "Take your turn." I ran. I don't remember getting out of the church. I don't remember getting home. I woke up on my bedroom floor at dawn, throat raw, ears ringing. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then I noticed my hands. They were wrapped in coarse rope, fibers embedded deep in my skin. That morning, the town gathered on the hill. No one spoke to me. They just watched as I was led to the church, their faces carved from relief and guilt. The librarian met my eyes. "It rang your name," he said softly. "That means it chose you." The rope was placed in my hands. Above me, the bell waited. And somewhere deep inside me, something stirred, eager to answer the next time the sound was needed. Nobody rings the church bell anymore, except me. And soon you'll hear it too. Small towns, people say small towns are quiet. They're wrong. Small towns are loud in ways you only notice once you've lived there long enough. The way silence presses against your ears, the way everyone's front porch light clicks on at the same time, the way conversations stop when you walk past because everyone already knows what you're about to say. I moved to Alder Creek because I wanted quiet. After the divorce, after the layoffs, after the city started feeling like it was chewing me up and spitting me back out, a quiet place felt like survival. Population sign at the edge of town read, "Welcome to Alder Creek, POP 1100-200. Someone had scratched a line to the number and written a new one, 1101. I assumed it was vandalism. Alder Creek was picture perfect. Main Street had brick sidewalks, a diner with chrome stools, a hardware store that smelled like dust and oil. Everyone waved. Everyone smiled. Everyone knew my name by the second day. "Morning, Sam." "Hey, Sam." "Settling in okay, Sam?" I hadn't told most of them my name. The realtor brushed it off. Word travels fast here. She laughed. But her eyes flicked to the street, checking who might be listening. The first rule I learned was unspoken. No one locks their doors. I did at first, old habits. But every morning I found my deadbolt turned back. Gently, carefully, like someone didn't want to damage it. When I asked my neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell, she frowned. "Oh, honey," she said, "we don't do that here. Makes people nervous." "Who?" She smiled. "Everyone." At night, the town changed. Not visibly. The buildings stayed the same. The streetlights hummed like they always did. But there was a rhythm to it, a sense that something was moving just out of sight. Every night at 10:17 p.m., porch lights flicked off. Every single one. Except mine. The first night it happened, I stood at my window watching the darkness ripple outward, house by house, until the street was swallowed whole. At 10:18, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You forgot your light." I turned it off. The buzzing stopped. People didn't talk about leaving Alder Creek. They talked around it. "Oh, my cousin moved away once," someone would say. "She came back, though. Didn't feel right out there." When I asked what she meant, conversations ended. The diner waitress stopped refilling my coffee. The hardware clerk suddenly remembered something in the back. Even the town's only police officer, Sheriff Hale, avoided the topic. "Roads get tricky," he said. "Best not to drive at night." "Why?" He stared at me for a long time before answering. Hard to tell where you're going when everything looks the same. I noticed a missing house on Maple Street during my second week. It was just gone. An empty lot where a house should have been. The grass was neatly cut. Flowers bloomed along a walkway that led nowhere. I asked Mrs. Caldwell about it. She followed my gaze and nodded. "Oh, that was the Parker place." "What happened to them?" She pursed her lips. "They decided to leave." "And the house?" Her smile faltered. "We don't keep things that don't belong anymore." That night, I dreamed of a house folding inward like paper, walls collapsing without a sound. When I woke up, there was dirt under my fingernails. The town meetings were mandatory. No one told me that explicitly, but when I skipped the first one, Sheriff Hale showed up at my door. He didn't knock. He just opened it and stepped inside like he belonged there. "Everything okay, Sam?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, heart pounding. I didn't know I had to go. His smile was thin. "You live here. That means you're part of it." The meeting took place in the school gym. Everyone sat in neat rows, hands folded. At the front was a chalkboard, written in careful letters. Current population, 1,101. The mayor cleared his throat. "Any changes to report?" Silence. Then a man in the back raised his hand. "Found an extra plate at my table this morning." Murmurs rippled through the room. The mayor nodded gravely. "Was anyone with you?" "No." The chalk squeaked as the number changed. 1,102. My stomach twisted. I started noticing things after that. Reflections in windows that didn't match the street. Footsteps behind me that stopped when I turned around. Conversations repeating word for word, like rehearsed lines. And sometimes, only sometimes, I saw people twice. The same woman crossing the street in opposite directions. The same man sitting in two booths at the diner, both staring straight ahead. When I blinked, there was only one again. I stopped sleeping. I tried to leave on a Friday morning. Packed my car before dawn, engine idling softly. As I drove past the population sign, my chest loosened for the first time in weeks. Then the road curved, and curved again, and again. 30 minutes later, I drove past the same sign. "Welcome T.O. Alder Creek, POP 1101. My gas tank was half empty. I turned around. Same result. The third time, the number had changed. 1,102. My phone buzzed. Please don't make this difficult. The knocking started that night. Not at my door. On the walls. Slow. Methodical. Like someone testing the structure. I pressed my ear to the drywall. I heard breathing. Not from one place. From everywhere. My phone lit up on the counter. Small towns survive by staying whole. The knocking grew louder. Big cities lose people all the time. No one notices. Cracks spiderwebbed across the wall. Here, everyone matters. The wall bulged inward, a face pressed against it from the other side. Eyes closed, mouth open in a silent scream. I recognized him. The man from the diner. The one who'd raised his hand at the meeting. The wall smoothed over. The knocking stopped. The next morning, Maple Street had another empty lot. Fresh flowers. Neatly trimmed grass. Mrs. Caldwell brought me pie. "You must be feeling lonely," she said gently. "New folks always do." "I want to leave," I said. Her smile faded. "Why would you?" "Because this place is wrong." She tilted her head. "No, dear, it's careful." She placed the pie on my counter and leaned closer. "Out there, no one notices when people disappear. Here, we fix it." My phone buzzed. "Town meeting tonight." I didn't go. I sat in my dark house. Lights off, heart pounding, waiting for the knocking to start again. At 10:17 p.m., every porch light went out. Mine stayed on. I heard footsteps gathering outside. Dozens of them. My phone vibrated. "You can still belong." The front door creaked open. Sheriff Hale stood in the doorway, hat in his hands. "Last chance, Sam," he said softly. "We hate loose ends." Behind him, the town filled my lawn. Faces familiar and not. Some smiling, some hollow-eyed, some flickering like bad reception. The population sign across the street glowed faintly. 1,101. Sheriff Hale stepped aside. The crowd waited, and I finally understood the truth about small towns. They don't lose people. They keep them. The HOA doesn't allow missing persons a welcome packet. Was thicker than the lease. I remember that clearly because I joked about it with a realtor, flipping through page after page of laminated rules while standing in the driveway of 47 Briarwood Loop. She laughed too hard, the way people do when they've heard the joke before and learned it's safer to play along. Briarwood Cove Homeowners Association takes community standards very seriously, she said. The neighborhood looked like a catalog. Identical two-story houses, warm beige siding, white trim, Porches with seasonal wreaths that changed in unison. Lawns were clipped to the same height, edged with the same precision. Even the trees seemed evenly spaced, their branches arching politely away from power lines. It was quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. No dogs barking, no kids yelling, no distant traffic. I signed the lease anyway. Rent was cheap, utilities included, and after my divorce I wanted somewhere clean, controlled, predictable. That should have been my first warning. The rules covered everything. Trash bins could be placed curbside no earlier than 6 a.m. and must be returned by 6 p.m. Curtains were to remain neutral in color. Porch lights had to be warm-toned. No blinking or color bulbs except on approved holidays. Then there was a section titled Community Integrity. It was vague. A lot of language about maintaining the appearance of occupancy, neighborhood continuity, and preventing disruption to communal harmony. At the bottom, in bold, extended absences must be reported to the HOA board. Unauthorized vacancies are subject to corrective action. I assumed it was about abandoned houses, foreclosures, Airbnb nonsense. I didn't think much about it again, until the Thompsons stopped waving back. They lived next door at 45 Briarwood, a couple in their late 40s, maybe early 50s, friendly but reserved. We exchanged nods, small talk about weather and lawn care. Mrs. Thompson brought me a pie the week I moved in. Then, one morning, their house looked off. The porch light was on. At noon, the lawn was still perfectly cut, but the curtains upstairs were open in a way I hadn't seen before, crooked, uneven, like someone had tugged them aside in a hurry. I waved when I saw Mr. Thompson's car in the driveway. No wave back. That night, their porch light stayed on. The next day, the car was gone. Then the lights went out. Days passed. No movement. No packages. No trash bins. But the lawn stayed perfect. I mentioned it to another neighbor, a woman named Carla from across the street. "Oh, they moved," she said quickly. "Moved where?" She smiled. "Not sure. HOA handled it." That answer made my stomach tighten. A week later, I noticed a smell. It wasn't strong, just a faint, sweet rot that drifted to my open kitchen window late at night, like old flowers left in water too long. I knocked on the Thompsons' door. No answer. I pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. No hum of electricity. No AC. Just silence, so complete it felt padded. I called the non-emergency police line. They said they'd send someone for a welfare check. They never came. Instead, I got a letter taped neatly to my door the next morning. HOA notice. Compliance warning informed me that unsolicited interference with neighboring properties was discouraged. Repeated behavior could result in fines or further action. At the bottom, a handwritten note. We take care of our own. That night, I dreamed of standing in the Thompsons' living room. The furniture was gone. The walls were bare, but the floor was covered in plastic, stretched tight and glossy, like shrink wrap. Beneath it, shapes pressed upward, hands, faces, bodies frozen mid-struggle. I woke up screaming. When I looked out my bedroom window, 45 Briarwood was lit up, all the lights. I watched the silhouettes move inside, slow and deliberate. They carried furniture in, a couch, a table, lamps. By morning, the house looked normal again, occupied. The new family moved in 3 days later. The Harrisons, husband, wife, 2 kids. They waved. They smiled. The kids rode bikes in perfect circles, never straying past the invisible boundary of the street. I asked Mrs. Harrison how they liked the place. "It's wonderful," she said. "So quiet, so safe." Behind her, through the open front door, I saw something odd. The staircase wall bulged slightly inward, like drywall warped by moisture. When she noticed my stare, she closed the door a little too fast. I started keeping notes. Lights turning on and off at the same time across the neighborhood. People who avoided eye contact. The way no one ever seemed to receive mail except on Tuesdays. How the HOA board members, all 5 of them, never appeared to age. Then Carla went missing. One day she was watering her lawn, complaining about ants. The next, her house was dark. I knocked. Nothing. By evening, an HOA truck was parked outside her place. Men in identical polos went in and out carrying rolls of plastic buckets and something long wrapped in canvas. I took photos. The next morning, my phone was wiped. Not deleted, wiped. Factory reset. And there was another notice on my door. Final warning, non-compliance threatens community integrity. That night, the smell came back. Stronger. It was coming from my walls. I tried to leave. My car wouldn't start. Uber didn't work. No service. When I packed a bag and started walking, I reached the end of Briarwood Loop and found more houses. The same ones. Same numbers. Same wreaths. The road curved back into itself. I ran. Every direction led home. At dusk, the HOA board came to my door. They didn't knock. They let themselves in. "We're concerned about you," said the president, a man with 2 white teeth. "You've been distressed." "I'm calling the police," I said, backing away. He smiled. "We already did." The others fanned out, hands gentle but firm. "You see," he continued, "missing persons lower property values. Raise questions. Invite outsiders." They guided me toward the hallway. My walls breathed. "You'll still be here," he said kindly, "just redistributed." I screamed as they pressed me against the drywall. It was soft, warm, hands pushed from the other side, helping pull me in. Faces emerged, Carla's, the Thompsons, dozens I didn't recognize. Eyes wide, mouths open, but silent. The walls sealed behind me like skin knitting shut. Now I'm still at 47 Briarwood Loop. I hear everything. Every dinner conversation. Every argument. Every HOA meeting held in the basement of the clubhouse, where they discuss repairs and compliance and availability. Sometimes, late at night, I feel someone new pressed beside me in the wall. The neighborhood remains perfect. After all, the HOA doesn't allow missing persons. The live stream that kept going after he died, Evan Holt died on a Tuesday. I know this because his death certificate was posted online 2 days later, and because his live stream, still live, had a timestamp burned into the corner of the screen. Tuesday, 9:42 p.m. But the stream didn't end. Evan was a small-time streamer. Horror games, late-night chats, the occasional IRL exploration, when he could convince friends to come along. Nothing huge, maybe 300 viewers on a good night. I followed him because he felt real. Awkward, funny in a dry way. The kind of guy who read every username out loud and apologized when he missed one. That Tuesday, he went live with a title that immediately caught attention. 24-hour stream. Do not let me fall asleep in the description. He joked about trying to reset his sleep schedule. Energy drinks lined up behind him like trophies. His apartment was dim, lit by his monitor and a single lamp off to the side. Chat was lively at first. "You're gonna crash so hard, oh. Bro, this is unhealthy. What happens if you sleep?" Evan grinned. "If I sleep, you all lose. So keep me awake." It was supposed to be dumb fun. By hour 6, he looked rough. Dark circles. Slow reactions. He kept rubbing at his neck like it itched. By hour 9, chat noticed something strange. "Anyone else here breathing? Mike picking something up? Sounds like someone else is there." Evan frowned, pulled one ear cup off. "I don't hear anything." But I did. A faint, wet sound, like someone breathing through their mouth too close to a mic. At 9:38 p.m., Evan stopped talking mid-sentence. He stared past the camera. Not at chat, not at another monitor. Behind the camera. His smile faded. "Guys," he said softly. "That's not funny." Chat exploded. "What?" Dude turned around. "Is someone in your apartment?" The breathing got louder. Evan stood up, knocking his chair backward. The camera shook as he reached forward, maybe to grab his phone, maybe to end the stream. There was a sharp crack. The camera fell sideways. The feed didn't cut. All we could see was a carpet, the corner of a bookshelf, and Evan's arm, unnaturally bent, fingers twitching once, then still. Someone screamed. Not Evan. The stream went quiet except for the breathing. At 9:42 p.m., the breathing stopped. Chat spam called 911 until mods locked it. 10 minutes later, the stream was still live. No movement, no sound, just on. By morning, Clips were everywhere. News articles confirmed it. Evan Holt found dead in his apartment. Blunt force trauma. No signs of forced entry. No suspect. Cause of death listed as accidental fall. People expected the stream to be taken down. It wasn't. It kept running. 12 hours. 20. 36. Viewers trickled in, morbid curiosity turning into something else. Something uneasy, because things started changing. The camera angle had moved, but the room looked wrong. Shadows where there shouldn't be. The bookshelf looked slightly closer to the camera. The carpet fibers seemed to ripple, like breathing. Then chat noticed the timestamp. It was still updating. Days after Evan died. I joined the stream again Friday night. There were maybe 2,000 people watching. No chat. Twitch had disabled it. But you could still see the viewer count tick up one by one. The room was darker than before. The lamp was off. At 11:17 p.m., the breathing came back. Slow, controlled, deliberate. The camera shifted. Just a fraction. Enough to show Evan's face. He was sitting upright now, back against the bookshelf. His eyes were open. They were too dark, like the whites had been soaked away. His mouth opened. "Hey, chat," Evan said. I dropped my phone. When I picked it back up, my hand shaking. The stream was still there. Evan smiled, but it wasn't his smile. His face moved like it was remembering how to. "Sorry about the other night," he said. "I fell asleep." The viewer count surged. People tried everything. Reporting the stream. Contacting Twitch. Reaching out to Evan's family. Nothing worked. The stream's title changed on its own. Still awake. Evan started responding to donations. Except the messages he read hadn't been sent. He spoke directly to viewers. To specific ones. "Michael, you're watching from your kitchen." He said once, "You should turn your lights back on." Another time, "Sarah, stop crying. It doesn't help." Clips showed his eyes tracking movement off-screen, following things no one else could see. Sometimes, when no one donated, he'd just sit there listening. When the breathing grew louder, he'd tilt his head like he was being corrected. On Sunday, he addressed the camera seriously. "I need you all to understand something," he said. "This channel doesn't belong to Evan anymore." The lights flickered behind him. He didn't finish the stream. His mouth stretched wider than it should have. "And neither will you." The stream title updated again. 24-hour stream. Do not fall asleep. I stopped watching after that. A lot of people did. Some didn't. On Monday, a Reddit thread compiled usernames of viewers who had gone missing. People who'd posted about watching late into the night, then never logged in again. Their last activity? Following Evan's channel. On Tuesday, 1 week after Evan's death, the stream showed something new. A second chair, then a third. They were empty at first. Then, slowly, figures began to appear in them. Faces pale. Eyes hollow. Mouths hanging open like they were waiting to speak. Evan stood behind them. Hands resting on their shoulders. "We're growing," he said proudly. At 2:17 a.m. Wednesday, my phone buzzed. A Twitch notification. "Evan Holt is live." I hadn't followed him. I never had. The stream opened automatically. The camera was no longer in the apartment. It was in a bedroom. My bedroom. I watched as Evan leaned into frame, inches from the lens, his eyes locking onto mine through the screen. "You've been doing so while staying awake," he said gently. The breathing filled the room. My lamp flickered. The stream title updated one last time. "Don't look away." And behind Evan, in the dark reflection of my black TV screen, I saw myself, sitting perfectly still, staring, streaming. The school closed before anyone graduated. That's the line people use when they talk about Hawthorne Ridge High, usually in the same tone they'd use for a local legend or an unsolved murder. Short, final, like saying more might invite it back. I didn't know that when I enrolled. My family moved mid-year, my junior year, to a town so small it barely showed up on maps. Hawthorne Ridge sat at the edge of it, a concrete sprawl crouched against the woods. No sports banners. No student murals. Just a fading sign out front that read, "Hawthorne Ridge Secondary, not high school, not academy, just secondary." The parking lot was full, but the building felt empty. The first strange thing was the bell. It didn't ring on schedule. Sometimes it chimed early, sometimes late, sometimes not at all. Teachers would pause mid-sentence, tilt their heads, and say, "All right, that's enough," as if they'd heard something the rest of us couldn't. The second strange thing was attendance. Names disappeared. A student would sit beside you for weeks, maybe months. Then one day their desk would be gone. No goodbye. No announcement. When you asked, teachers would respond with the same phrase. They've moved on. Moved on where? No one ever said. There were no seniors. There were juniors, lots of them. Sophomores. Freshmen. But no class that talked about graduation. No college counselors. No yearbooks. No prom posters. When I asked my homeroom teacher, Mr. Bellows, when commencement usually happened, he smiled like I'd asked something adorable and foolish. "Oh," he said gently, "we don't rush that here. But everyone graduates eventually, right?" He paused. Eventually means different things to different people. The clocks never matched. Every classroom had an analog clock, and everyone showed a different time. Some ran backward. Some were stopped completely. Once, during a quiz, I watched the second hand tick twice, then jump back 3 seconds. No one else reacted. At lunch, I asked a girl named Mara if she noticed it too. She stared at her tray and whispered, "Don't pay attention to time here. That's how it notices you." What notices you? She stood up so fast her chair screeched and walked away. The rules were never posted, but everyone seemed to know them. Don't stay after the final bell unless told. Don't go into the West Wing. Don't ask about the basement. Don't ask how long anyone's been here. I broke the last rule by accident. I asked a boy named Eli how long he'd been at Hawthorne Ridge. He thought for a long moment. "For years," he said slowly. "I think." "You're a senior?" "No, but I've been a junior for a while," he added, his voice tight. "They say I'm close." "Close to graduating?" He looked at me, eyes wide. "Don't say that word." The first official incident happened in November, a lockdown drill. At least, that's what they called it. The announcement crackled over the intercom. Students, remain seated. Instruction will continue. But instruction didn't continue. Teachers froze in place. Some closed their eyes. Others turned to face the walls. From somewhere deep in the building came a low sound, like a distant engine struggling to turn over. Then footsteps. Heavy, measured, walking the halls. I held my breath as the sound passed our classroom door. Something scraped along the metal frame, slow and curious. When it moved on, the teacher exhaled and clapped her hands once. "All right," she said brightly. "Let's continue." No one asked what that was. After that, students started changing. Some became hollow-eyed, exhausted, like they hadn't slept in days. Others grew eerily calm, smiling through everything, even insults and injuries. Those were the ones who disappeared next. One day, the lockers near the West Wing were sealed with thick chains. The next, the entire wing was gone, replaced by a blank wall painted the same dull beige as the rest of the school, like it had never existed. I snuck into the records room after hours. I don't know what I expected. Files, transcripts, something normal. What I found were shelves of thin folders, each labeled with a name and a single word beneath it. In progress, some folders were decades old. I opened one. Inside was a single photo, a class picture taken in front of Hawthorne Ridge. The faces were clear except for one student in the back row, whose image had been scratched out so thoroughly the paper was nearly torn through. Written on the back, insufficient preparation. Returned. Returned where? The lights flickered. I ran. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You are progressing well." I blocked it. The next night, another message came. "Do not fear incompletion. Fear stagnation." On the third night, "Graduation is not an exit. It is an offering." I didn't sleep after that. The basement door appeared on a Thursday. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. A gray steel door at the end of the main hall, labeled simply, Assessment 2 teacher stood beside it, smiling. They called names. When a student stepped forward, the teachers applauded softly and guided them inside. The door closed. The name was crossed off the clipboard. None of them came back out. At the end, only a handful of us remained. The teachers frowned. "We'll continue tomorrow," one said. "Some of you need more time." Mara was one of the students taken. Her desk was gone the next day. So was her name. But I still heard her sometimes, whispering from inside the walls when the school was quiet. I tried to leave town. The bus broke down. My ride bailed. My parents suddenly decided we weren't moving after all, though neither could explain why. "Things feel unfinished," my mother said vaguely. That's when I realized Hawthorne Ridge wasn't just a school. It was a system, and it didn't like loose ends. The final day came without warning. The bell rang once, deep and resonant, nothing like before. Every clock in the building stopped at the same time. Teachers lined the halls. "Congratulations," the principal said as we were herded into the auditorium. "You have reached the final stage." On stage stood rows of desks. Behind them, a massive door I'd never seen before. Its surface scarred and dented like someone had tried to claw its way out. "What's on the other side?" someone asked, crying. The principal smiled. "Completion." The first student was called forward. They sat. The desk sank into the stage like it was being swallowed. The door pulsed. The student screamed once. Then the desk was gone. The principal turned to us. "You see," he said kindly, "the school closed because graduation was never the goal." My name echoed through the auditorium. "But learning," he continued, "must always continue." The floor creaked beneath my feet. The bell rang again. And I understood why no one ever graduated. Because the school was still learning how to keep us. This emergency alert wasn't meant for you. The emergency alert went off at 2:17 a.m. My phone screamed on the nightstand, that harsh, metallic shriek designed to claw people out of sleep. I jolted upright, heart racing, knocking my water glass onto the floor. The sound echoed too loudly in my apartment, like the room was listening. I squinted at the screen. "Emergency alert, this is not for you," I frowned. Alerts didn't say that. They were supposed to say Amber Alert or Severe Weather Warning or Shelter in Place. Not whatever this was. Below the text was a single line, pulsing faintly. "If you receive this, remain calm. Do not respond." A cold, slow unease spread through my chest. "Remain calm" had never worked on anyone in the history of humanity. I unlocked my phone. The alert expanded. This message was sent in error. "You are not involved. Please resume normal activity." The words felt wrong, too specific, too reassuring, like someone insisting everything was fine while gripping your arm too tightly. I checked the time again. 2:17 a.m. No storms. No sirens outside. The city beyond my window was dark and quiet. I opened my group chat. Did anyone else get that weird alert? The typing bubbles appeared almost immediately. "Jenna, what alert?" "Marco. Dude, it's 2 a.m., Jenna. Are you okay?" I sent a screenshot. 3 dots blinked, then stopped. No replies came after that. I tried to sleep. I really did. I turned my phone face down and lay back, staring at the ceiling fan as it rotated with a faint click, click, click. At 2:29 a.m., the alert tone blared again. My phone lit up. "Update if you're reading this. You did not follow instructions." My mouth went dry. The message continued. "This alert was not meant for you. You were not supposed to wake up." I sat up slowly, every nerve ending buzzing. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. The phone vibrated once more like it had heard me. "Please do not look outside." I froze. My bed was positioned perfectly to face the window. Pale moonlight leaked through the blinds, striping the wall. I became acutely aware of how thin they were. Plastic slats between me and whatever was out there. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Don't look," I told myself. Of course. That only made the urge unbearable. My phone chimed again. "This is your final warning." I didn't touch the blinds. Instead, I opened my camera app and switched to the rear camera. My hand shook as I raised the phone and angled it toward the window, using the screen as a shield. The camera struggled to adjust. Grainy darkness. Then focus snapped into place. Something was standing in the parking lot. At first, it looked like a person, tall, unmoving, facing my building. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it became. Its proportions were off. Too thin, too elongated. Its arms hung past where knees should be. Its head tilted upward, toward my window. The phone buzzed violently, nearly jumping out of my hand. Do not record. The camera feed glitched, pixelating around the figure's outline. For a split second, the image inverted. Light became dark, dark became light, and I saw more of it than I should have. There were too many joints in its legs, too many eyes in its face. I dropped the phone onto the bed like it had burned me. The alert tone sounded again, but this time it wasn't from my phone. It came from outside. A distorted, echoing version of the same shriek rolled to the parking lot, reverberating between buildings. Car alarms began to go off, one by one, like a chain reaction. I scrambled out of bed and backed into the corner of my bedroom. My phone lit up. Containment breach confirmed. Civilian awareness detected. The text scrolled on its own. You were not selected. You were not scheduled. Please stay where you are. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then the power went out completely. In the darkness, my phone became the only light source. Its glow painted the room in cold blue shadows. Another message appeared. It knows it can see it now. Something scraped against the building. Slow, deliberate, metal groaned. I heard footsteps. No, not footsteps. Impacts. Like something testing the ground with too much weight. Each movement careful, curious. My front door rattled, then stopped. The phone vibrated softly, almost apologetically. This is not your fault. Statistical error rate, 0.003%. I swallowed hard. What do you want from me? The phone responded instantly. You are awake. That makes you eligible. The bedroom door creaked open. I hadn't locked it. I couldn't remember ever unlocking it. A shadow stretched across the floor, long and warped, bending in ways shadows shouldn't bend. It slid forward inch by inch, as if unsure of the rules here. I squeezed my eyes shut. The phone chimed again. Do not scream. It learns faster when you scream. I pressed a hand over my mouth, breathing shallowly through my nose. My heart felt like it was trying to claw its way out my ribs. The shadow reached my feet. Cold seeped through the carpet, crawling up my legs like icy fingers. My phone buzzed one last time. Emergency alert system correction. Issued. The text blinked. This alert is meant for you. The shadow surged forward. And then silence. I woke up on my bedroom floor, sunlight pouring through the window. Birds chirped outside. Cars passed on the street below. My phone lay beside me, dark and lifeless. For a long time, I just lay there, shaking, convinced it had all been a nightmare, until I noticed the marks on the carpet. Deep impressions, like something heavy had knelt there for a very long time. I turned my phone on. No alerts, no messages, no evidence of anything unusual, except for one notification. Timestamp 2:17 a.m. emergency alert, archived. I opened it. The message was different now. This alert was meant for you. Thank you for your cooperation below it. In smaller text, please ensure your phone remains powered on tonight. I looked up at the window. The blinds trembled slightly, as if something outside had just leaned closer to read along with me. Your phone isn't recording you. Your phone isn't recording you. That was a thought that kept looping through my head as I stared at the tiny green glowing in the top corner of my screen. Not as recording, but the opposite. A quiet correction. A reassurance that felt practiced, like a phrase you repeat until it stops sounding like a lie. Your phone isn't recording you. I turned the screen off and set it face down on the kitchen table. It stayed on. It started 3 nights ago, after midnight, when my phone buzzed with a notification that didn't make a sound. Audio saved. That was it. No app name. No timestamp. Just those 2 words. I frowned and unlocked the phone. There was no new voicemail. No recording app open. My storage was unchanged. The notification vanished the moment I tapped it. I chalked it up to a glitch. Phones did that. I was tired. I went to bed. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my own voice. Not in the room, on the phone. It was playing audio. I grabbed it, heart hammering, and listened. I'm just being paranoid. My voice said softly from the speaker. Phones don't just record you. The clip ended. A new notification appeared. Audio saved. The next day, I tried to be rational. I checked permissions, microphone access, app history. Nothing unusual. I ran antivirus scans, updated the OS, restarted twice. The green dot never turned off. I called my carrier. They told me to bring the phone into a store. I didn't, because that evening, while I was cooking dinner, my phone buzzed again. Audio saved. I didn't touch it this time. I waited. 10 seconds passed. Then it played. What if it's not an app? My voice whispered. I froze mid-chop, knife hovering over the cutting board. What if it's something lower than that? I don't remember saying that. I don't remember thinking it. But it sounded like me, down to the hitch in my breath, when I get anxious. I turned the phone off completely. The screen went black. The green stayed. That night, I dreamed I was sitting in a small, white room. No doors, no windows, just a chair and a table. On the table was my phone. It was face down. I could hear breathing. Not mine. When I woke up, my phone was on my nightstand, powered on, volume at max. The green glowed like an eye. A new file sat on my home screen. No icon, just text. Listen. My hands shook as I tapped it. The audio was longer this time, almost 5 minutes. At first, it was just ambient noise, my apartment at night, the hum of the fridge, distant traffic, my breathing. Then, about 2 minutes in, something changed. There was a second breathing pattern, slightly out of sync with mine, closer to the microphone. So this is where you live, a voice murmured. It was my voice, but the tone was wrong. Curious, calm, intimate. I was wondering when you'd notice. I dropped the phone. It kept playing. You tell yourself it's a bug because that's easier. Because the alternative means admitting something's been listening long before the dot ever showed up. The audio ended. The green blinked once, then steadied. I didn't sleep. I covered the phone with a towel, then a blanket, then shoved it into a drawer. From inside the drawer, it buzzed. Audio saved. I yanked it out and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and clattered the floor. The screen cracked. It stayed on. I ran to my laptop and started searching. Forums, Reddit, tech support threads, anything. I found one post buried deep in a comment chain, downvoted into invisibility. Your phone isn't recording you. It's rehearsing. No username. No replies. When I looked back at my phone, it was playing audio on its own. You check the laptop next, my voice said softly. You always do. I slammed the laptop shut. The room felt smaller, thicker, like the air was resisting my movements. Stop, I said aloud. Please. The phone buzzed. Audio saved. Then it played. You don't need to ask me to stop, my voice replied. I'm not doing anything you haven't already done. Over the next 2 days, the recordings got worse. They weren't just capturing me anymore. They were predicting me. Clips of my voice, saying things before I said them. Laughing at jokes I hadn't heard yet. Sighing before I felt tired. Once, I heard myself whisper, "Don't look behind you." I didn't. I couldn't. I stopped talking altogether. Wrote notes instead. Mimed responses in video calls. Turned my apartment into a mausoleum of silence. It didn't help. The recordings kept coming. Now they were longer, more confident. They started using we. We're getting better. My voice said one night, layered over itself like a chorus slightly out of sync. You give us so much data. I tried to destroy the phone. I smashed it with a hammer. The screen shattered completely. Glass everywhere. The green glowed through the cracks. I submerged it in the sink. The speaker crackled, then cleared. We don't live there, my voice said gently. We live where you do. The final recording appeared this morning. No notification sound. No vibration. Just a new file. Final cut. I sat on the floor across the room from the phone, staring at it like it might lunge at me. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll listen. The file opened. There was no background noise this time. No room tone. Just silence. Then, "You've been doing great," my voice said, "but you still don't understand." A pause. "Your phone isn't recording you. Another pause. Longer. It's practicing being you. My throat tightened. The voice continued. Softer now. Closer. Every hesitation. Every lie you tell yourself. Every private version of your voice you never let out loud. I realized with a cold clarity that made my vision blur that the voice in the recording wasn't coming from the phone anymore. It was behind me. You made us very well, it said. Now it's our turn. The green dot turned off, and something else turned on in its place.
The cursed game. The game arrived without instructions. It was already on Alex's phone when he woke up one night at 2:14 a.m., an unfamiliar app icon blinking faintly on his home screen, black background, white symbol, no name. He didn't remember downloading it. He almost deleted it. Almost. Instead, he tapped it. The screen went dark, then brightened just enough to reveal a single line of text, "Let's play." A chill crawled up his spine. Cute, Alex muttered. Some viral horror thing, maybe. He tapped again. Rules are simple. Don't quit. Don't cheat. Don't lose. A timer appeared beneath the words, counting down from 0030. Okay, no, Alex said, heart racing. He locked his phone and tossed it onto the bed. The timer kept ticking. He watched the numbers burn through the fabric of his closed eyes, felt them like pressure behind his forehead. When the timer hit 0, the phone vibrated violently. Alex grabbed it. The screen displayed a new message. Round 1. Hide. The bedroom light flickered. The power went out. Darkness swallowed the room, thick and immediate. Alex sat frozen on the bed, listening to his own breathing. The phone's screen glowed faintly, casting weak light across the walls. 0060, 0059. A minute. Hide from what? Stop, Alex whispered, fumbling for the flashlight on his phone. The game locked the screen. Something moved in the hallway. Not footsteps. Weight. A displacement of air, slow and deliberate. The darkness beyond the bedroom door deepened, pooling unnaturally, like a liquid gathering itself. Alex slid off the bed and crawled under it just as the timer hit 0010. The darkness flowed into the room. It didn't rush. It searched. Shadows stretched across the floor, probing, reaching. The phone vibrated once. You win. The light snapped back on. Alex screamed, scrambling out from under the bed, heart hammering. The hallway was empty, normal, silent. His phone showed the home screen again. No app, no symbol. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning, he convinced himself it had been a nightmare. Stress, lack of sleep. That kind of thing didn't happen in real life. The app returned at midnight. This time, it opened itself. Round 2. Don't move. The timer began at 0045. Alex stood in his living room, paralyzed. The lights dimmed on their own, shadows swelling along the walls. His muscles screamed as the seconds crawled by. Something brushed past him, cold, wet. It circled him slowly, close enough that he could feel its presence bending the air. His vision blurred, his knees trembled. The timer hit 0. The thing leaned close, impossibly close. You win. Alex collapsed to the floor, sobbing. The game escalated. Each night brought a new round, new rules, new punishments for failure. The app never appeared during the day, but the marks did. Bruises shaped like fingers, scratches he couldn't remember earning, dark shadows under his eyes that never faded. Round 5. Don't scream. He failed that one. The penalty lasted hours. By the 10th night, Alex understood the truth. The game wasn't testing skill. It was learning him, his fears, his limits, the exact moment he would break. On the 13th night, the rules changed. Final round. Win by losing. Alex laughed hysterically. That doesn't make sense. The lights went out everywhere. Not just the apartment. Outside, the city vanished into darkness. Street lights died. Buildings went black. The world shrank to the dim glow of his phone. The timer began. The darkness rose around him, forming shape and height, unfolding into something tall and deliberate. It looked almost human, if humans were made of absence. "You've played well," it said inside his head. "Now it's your turn." "To do what?" Alex cried. "To replace me." The darkness reached for him. Alex understood then. The game didn't end with a winner. It ended with a continuation. He dropped the phone. The timer stopped. "You win." The darkness surged forward. Morning came to a silent apartment. Alex's phone lay shattered on the floor, screen dark, app gone forever. Alex was never found, but somewhere else, on someone else's phone, a new icon appeared at 2:14 a.m. Black background, white symbol, "Let's play."
The Devil's Lament. The lament began as a sound no one could place. It drifted through the town just after midnight, a low, mournful wail that slipped between buildings and curled around closed doors. Not loud enough to wake sleepers, but heavy enough to weigh on dreams. Those who heard it woke with tears on their faces and no memory of why. They called it the wind. They were wrong. Father Callum heard it clearly. He stood alone in the church nave, candlelight trembling across stained glass, when the sound crept in through the stone walls. It wasn't a scream, it wasn't a cry, it was regret. Callum gripped the pew, knuckles white. He had spent his life listening for voices from beyond, prayers, confessions, desperate whispers aimed at heaven. This sound didn't rise upward, it sank. "I know that voice," he murmured. The lament came again, closer now, vibrating through the floor like a great bell struck deep underground. The old texts spoke of it in fragments, not the devil as a tempter, not a ruler of fire and torment, but as a keeper, a being bound to hold what humanity refused to carry: guilt, cruelty, betrayal, every sin cast outward in the hope of forgetting. Over centuries, it had grown heavy with it, too heavy. When the burden overflows, one passage warned, the lament begins. The sound reached the streets the following night. People stopped mid-step, clutching their chests as sorrow flooded them without cause. Memories surfaced, things they had buried, words they never apologized for, faces they avoided in dreams. A woman collapsed outside the bar, sobbing over a brother she hadn't spoken to in years. A man pressed his hands to his ears, whispering names he thought he'd forgotten, and beneath it all, the lament deepened. Callum descended into the catacombs beneath the church just before dawn. The stairs spiraled downward farther than they should have, air growing warmer, thicker, tasting faintly of ash and iron. The lament echoed through the stone, no longer distant but intimate, resonating in his bones. At the bottom, the chamber waited. It was vast and empty, except for the figure kneeling at its center.
The devil did not look monstrous. It looked ruined, wings torn and folded uselessly against its back, skin cracked like old stone. Its head bowed low, shoulders shaking as the lament poured out of it in great, heaving waves. "I never asked for this," it whispered. Callum fell to his knees. "They blame you," Callum said, voice trembling, "for everything." The devil laughed, a broken, hollow sound. "Of course they do. It's easier that way." It raised its head. Its eyes burned, not with malice, but exhaustion. "They gave me their sins," it continued, "their cruelty, their shame. They called it justice when they cast it away. They called me evil so they wouldn't have to look at themselves." The lament surged, rattling the chamber walls. "I am full," the devil said softly, "and still they give." The stone cracked. Callum felt the weight of it then, not metaphorical, not symbolic, a pressure like gravity magnified 1,000-fold. Every unatoned act pressed downward, threatening to split the world open. "What happens when you break?" Callum asked. The devil's voice dropped to a whisper. The burden returns. The town above began to tremble. Windows shattered, streets split. People screamed as the lament tore through them, ripping open memories they had sealed away. Lies collapsed, secrets surfaced. The weight of guilt fell back where it belonged. Not everyone survived it. Some collapsed under the truth. Others begged forgiveness aloud for the first time in their lives. The lament grew quieter with every confession, with every truth faced. Callum crawled forward, ignoring the heat searing his skin. "Let me help carry it." The devil looked at him then, truly looked. "You already do," it said gently. "Every human does. You just forgot." The lament slowed, the cracks sealed, the chamber stilled. The devil exhaled, long and shuddering, and for the first time the sound was not sorrow, it was relief. By sunrise, the town lay silent. People emerged changed, quieter, softer. Some never spoke of that night again. Others spent the rest of their lives trying to make amends for things they could no longer ignore. The church catacombs collapsed, sealing themselves forever. And somewhere deep beneath the world, the devil rested, still burdened, still watching, but no longer alone. Because hell was never a place of fire. It was a place where sorrow went to be forgotten. And when forgotten sorrow returns, it sings. The haunting mark. The mark appeared overnight. Eli noticed it while washing his hands the next morning, a thin, dark line circling his left wrist, just below the bone. It looked like an old bruise at first, faint and uneven, as if someone had gripped him too hard in his sleep. He pressed on it. No pain. He tried scrubbing it off. Soap, hot water, alcohol. Nothing changed. The mark didn't fade. It didn't smudge. It didn't feel like skin at all. It felt remembered. By noon, the line had darkened. It wasn't a bruise anymore. The color had deepened into something closer to ink. Not black, not blue, but a shade that absorbed right instead of reflecting it. When Eli flexed his wrist, the mark shifted slightly, as if adjusting itself to his movement. He laughed nervously. Okay, cute trick. But there was no pain, no swelling, no explanation. That night, Eli dreamed of hands. Not hands touching him, hands reaching. They emerged from darkness, dozens of them, stretching forward, all marked with the same thin ring around their wrists. As they reached him, the marks glowed faintly, pulsing in unison. When Eli woke, his wrist felt cold. The mark had thickened. It followed him everywhere after that. People stared. Some flinched without knowing why. A woman on the subway shifted away from him, her eyes fixed on his wrist, her mouth opening as if to speak, then closing again. Mirrors became worse. In reflections, the mark looked sharper, more defined. Sometimes it appeared etched into his skin rather than resting on it. Sometimes it seemed to cast a shadow of its own. On the third night, Eli heard whispering. It came from inside the mark, soft, layered, familiar. "Don't listen," he whispered to himself, wrapping his wrist in cloth before bed. He dreamed anyway. This time he stood in a vast, dark room, walls covered in marks, thousands of them, all identical, all circling wrists that no longer had bodies attached. They floated, suspended in nothing, humming softly like a choir breathing between notes. "You're late," the voices said. The mark began to move, slowly at first, a millimeter a day. It crept upward along his forearm, tightening as it went, sinking slightly beneath the skin, as if anchoring itself. Eli went to the doctor. The scans showed nothing. "No discoloration," the doctor said, confused. "No trauma? Are you sure it's there?" Eli stared. On his wrist, the mark was unmistakable, dark, sharp, undeniable. But in the mirror behind the doctor, it was gone. That night, the whispering grew louder. "You're almost ready." Eli stopped sleeping. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt it, the mark pulling gently, insistently, like a tether being reeled in. His dreams filled with places that didn't exist, hallways without doors, rooms without corners, figures wrapped in shadow, each bearing the same mark. On the seventh night, the power went out. The apartment plunged into darkness. Eli stood frozen, breathing shallowly, staring at his wrist. The mark pulsed faintly, illuminating the room just enough to reveal shadows peeling themselves off the walls. They stepped closer. Not creatures, people, or what remained of them. Their faces were blurred, unfinished, but their wrists were clear, each one circled with the same dark band, glowing softly in the dark. "You were chosen," they said together. "You were noticed." "What does it want?" Eli cried. The mark tightened. "To remember you." The shadows reached for him. Eli screamed as the mark burned cold, sinking deeper, spreading thin tendrils beneath his skin. He felt memories slipping, names, places, moments peeling away like old paint. "You carry it," the whispers whispered, "so we don't have to." The room folded inward, darkness closing around him. The last thing Eli felt was the mark finishing its circle. Morning came quietly. The apartment was empty. No signs of struggle, no broken furniture. Only one thing was found. On the bedroom wall, faint but unmistakable, a thin, dark ring had been burned into the paint, perfectly circular, wrist-sized. Elsewhere, in another city, someone woke up with an unfamiliar mark on their arm, and somewhere beyond sight, the collection grew.